Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate Weapon tutorial. And in today's video, we are going to take a look at the Greatsword. So first up, the Greatsword is big. As you can see, it's in the name, it's called Greatsword for a reason, it is massive. Being big means it's slow, but that doesn't mean it has to be. Now what I mean by that is, yes, walking around with this weapon is extremely slow, but you don't want to be doing this. If you're doing this, then you're doing it wrong. Quite simply, you want to adopt the hit and run strategy. Your use of the Greatsword will effectively be get in, do your attack, roll out, put your weapon away, and then get out. That's effectively how you're going to be playing, and that's how you can turn a slow weapon into a fast powerhouse. So, with that out of the way, let's begin by talking about some of the basic attacks. First up, if you draw your sword, your basic X attack will do an overhead slash like so. This can be charged, which I'll talk about in just a second. If you then follow that up, you'll do your downward slash, and then you'll do a slap. This does stun damage, and you can use this to knock out enemies. If you press A, you can do a wide slash. Now do bear in mind, if you are playing in multiplayer, that will trip up your teammates if they don't have super armor, so do try and be mindful of your sort of positioning when you're playing as a team. Try and pick a different side of the monster so you don't trip them up. You can then follow this up, so you can go and do your wide slash, then you can go and do your second attack, which can also be charged. Again, I'll talk about that in a second, and you can follow up with a third hit. You can also link your downward slash, your X attack, into your wide swing, so you can go X and then A. And what's more, that can also be chained. X, and then A, and then X, and then so on and so forth. Now if you press X and A, you will do an upward swing. This is good for knocking enemies in the face, but as you saw with my cat over there, if you do that with your teammates, they will go flying. So again, if you're playing in multiplayer, do be mindful. You don't want to be going and doing this when your teammate's about to unleash a powerful attack, and then knock them flying. It's not going to go down well. And you can then link that in with your basic combo, so for example, you can go X, and then A, and then follow up with your X and A attack. Then with your weapon sheath, you can run forward and press X and you'll do your downward slam. Now this will form the bread and butter of your hit and run strategy. The way you'll be fighting is that you'll run around, you'll find an opening, you'll do your attack, ideally land it as a charge, again which I'll talk about in just a second, and then you'll aim to get out. If you do have the time or there is an opening, you will obviously unleash a slightly longer and more powerful combo, but for the most part, when you're fighting things and you need to be on the move, then you'll simply run in, do your slash, land in whatever damage you can, and then get out. The main thing is, bear in mind, with a greatsword, you are not very mobile unless your weapon is put away, so do not by any means try and put yourself in danger. Where possible, just make sure you get in, do the damage you need, and then get out. It's better to live to fight another day than to try and get an extra hit in and then invariably end up dying. Now let's talk charging, which is the key to dishing out that heavy damage that this weapon is famous for. So, firstly, if I draw my sword out and then I hold X, you'll see that I begin my downward slash animation, but instead I'm holding it and charging right now. When I let go, I then dish out a more powerful attack. Now there are 3 levels of charge. If you notice right there, it flashes 3 times, and then they dictate the amount of damage I do. A level 1 charge will do the minimum amount of damage, a level 2 charge will do the next amount of damage, and the level 3 charge is the one you want to aim for because this does the most damage. Now do bear in mind you can actually overcharge this, so if I hold the X button and I don't let go, you'll see that I flash past my level 3 animation and then I automatically let go of the attack, and that actually comes out as a level 2 charge. So what you don't want to do is overcharge it because then you're doing less damage for more charge time, which is not a good thing. It leaves you vulnerable for a little bit longer and means that you're not doing quite as much damage as you should be. So make sure wherever possible you're aiming for that sweet spot. 1, 2, 3, and then you let go. That is your level 3 charge, and that's where you want to be aiming. You can also do this whilst unsheathing your sword, so if you just hold down X as soon as you draw your weapon, you'll begin charging. 1, 2, 3, and then you can go in again. And that, as I mentioned earlier, will be the bread and butter of your strategy. Ideally, if there's an opening, you'll run forward, you'll hold down, you'll charge your weapon, try and get in as much damage as you can, roll out, put your weapon away, and then get out to safety. Again, as I said, if there is the opening or the monster is trapped, then you can get a slightly lengthier combo in and do more damage, but initially that's something you want to get used to. Now the other advantage of this sword being so big and bulky is that you can block with it. If you hold down R, you'll see that you can block like that. Now do bear in mind, you only want to do this in emergencies. Blocking with a greatsword will deplete your sharpness extremely quickly. So you do want to just do this if you're in a pinch or you're in a position where you're about to get hit and you need to stay alive. So do only do this if you can. Ideally you want to get into the habit of rolling out where possible and avoiding attacks by rolling as much as you can. And if things do get really, really desperate, then you can also draw straight into a guard. So if you hold down R and press X and A together, you'll draw straight out into a guard. So again, this is just sort of something you can use if you do really get into a position. Maybe you kind of spawned into an area and a Rathalos's fireball is flying towards you, then perhaps you can do that. But again, try and avoid doing it where possible. Then the other move in your arsenal is your ability to kick. This won't do much damage, but if you press the special icon in the top right corner of your screen, you can then do a little kick, and you can also do this with your weapon drawn out, like so. And if you're blocking and you press X, you can also kick from blocking. The main reason you want to use that is if there are any small enemies that are potentially going to come up and hit you whilst you're sort of trying to do your moves, so you can always use that to keep them at bay. But the other thing that's worth bearing in mind is that you can actually go into a slap from your kick. So if I block and I press X to kick, and then I follow up with a second X attack, you see that I go and do that, and that does impact damage. So again, if I'm trying to knock a monster out, then that could be really useful. But there's more. So from that slap, you can also go into a stronger charge. So if you begin by blocking, press X to kick, we're then going to press X again to slap, and then we're going to pull back on the circle pad and press X to begin a stronger charge. So, kick, slap, back on the circle pad and hold X, and this is my stronger charge animation. Now the bonus in this one is that you can't actually overcharge that one, so you can hold that as long as you like because it will always come out as a level 3 charge. And that move there is a more powerful charge than your regular downward slash charge. So if you do get an opportunity to use that, try and use it wherever possible. You may also have noticed that after I did that stronger charge, there was one additional move. That is a super swipe. You do that by pressing X after the strong charge lands. So again, if we block, kick, slap, pull back on the circle pad, do the level 3 charge, 1, 2, 3, land that down, press X again, and you do a super swipe. That does a lot of damage, and the strength on the super swipe depends on the charge level of the stronger charge. So for example, if from my strong charge I did a level 1 charge, then the super swipe will be a level 1. But again, if I did a level 3, then the super swipe is level 3. That does a lot of damage, so if you can land that, then you're doing a good job. Alternatively, if you don't want to land the super swipe and the strong charge from a slap or a kick, then you can also begin by doing your X attack. You can then follow up with an A attack. If you press A again, you will then enter the strong charge mode, 2, 3, and you can then follow up with your super swipe. So you don't have to go in from a block and a kick, you can instead go from X, A, X. Then the last move I'm going to mention is your jump attack. Now all weapons have got a jump attack in Monster Hunter 4. You can jump off ledges and you can press X and you'll do an attack. However, with the Great Sword, if you then press X after landing that attack, you'll get a free level 2 super swipe. So if I begin by running off the ledge, jumping, pressing X, and press X again, I'll get a super swipe out. That's always level 2, you can't charge that, but it is a free attack, so if you do get in a position where you can jump off and attack an enemy, do try and land that as well. And that is pretty much it for the Greatsword. There aren't quite as many moves as some of the other weapons, but this is an extremely powerful weapon, and if you can get the tactic down, if you can get used to hitting and running and then getting out, then you'll be doing a lot of damage and helping out your team. So this is definitely a weapon you're going to want to practice with, because initially when you do start, it may feel sluggish, it may feel clunky, it may feel slow, but when you get into the habit of hitting and running, then you will have no problems. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it helpful, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that like button down below to show your support. It does really help me out, and obviously don't forget to subscribe for daily gaming videos and much more Monster Hunter coverage. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any other questions or there's anything else you'd like explained, or alternatively, if there's another weapon you want me to cover, then do let me know. I am going to be doing tutorials for all 14 weapons, but if there is one you want me to prioritise and do first, then let me know and I will do my best to do that. So thank you very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.